Once you've purchased the Picta Dicta Latin Primer from Roman Roads, you're going to get an email that tells you exactly how to set up your account. There will actually be a video that takes you through that process step by step. And then once you've created your account, you're going to click play, and then to get started, you click go. Go is going to take you to number 1. All of these are opened up because I'm an administrator, but for your student, they just click go. So let me show you what number 1 looks like. We're learning vocab in the beginning, and it'll pronounce the Latin word, and it'll show you what we're talking about here. And I would encourage you, tell your student to click this button a couple times to hear it, and then say it themselves as well. Puer. And they need to make sure they're actually trying to memorize this, not just be like, hey, this is cool, this is called a puer. They need to memorize it because they're going to be tested really soon.
Oculus.
Then they memorize this word.
Stylus.
Memorize this word.
Puer.
And now they're getting tested. Puer. Which one is a puer?
Puer. Stylus.
Which one is a stylus?
Stylus. Oculus.
And let's say I forget this one. It's here, but I say it's
Oculus.
It shows me I got it wrong, and it shows me what the right one is, and then it'll let me try it again.
Oculus.
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 This one. I'm not going to finish it. There's more vocabulary here, but for the sake of time, we're going to move on. This goes all the way to the last page again because I'm an administrator, but yours will always stay right where you are. You just click go again. So we've done learn vocab. You click go and you'll do practice vocab because we really need to know the vocab before we get to sentences. And let me show you what sentences looks like.
Oculi.
So in the sentences, we're just using the grammar. We're just using the language. And the student will understand this pretty quickly, pretty intuitively, because they'll remember the word is oculus, and that was one eye. And now we're saying oculi, and there's 2 of them. And in case they didn't get it the first time,
Styli.
they'll have another opportunity. Stili. It used to be stilus, now it's stili.
Digiti.
And this one is digiti, and it'll test them.
Oculi.
Which one's oculi?
Oculi. Digiti. Digiti. Stili. Stili. Puer in campo est.
And this is another, so we just dealt with plurals, but now we're dealing with another grammatical concept. And this one is not as intuitive for English speakers. Oculus changing to oculi when there's 2 of them is not so crazy because we change our nouns in English when there's 2. We say I, eyes is plural. But this one's weird. Why did the word campus change to campo? And your student's going to start forming ideas about why. And they have a number of examples to try figure it out. Puer in campo est.
Puer in fluvio est.
Same thing happens here. The word is fluvius, but it changed to fluvio. Maybe by the second one, they're already saying, hey, is it after the word in that it changes from fluvius to fluvio? Puer in fluvio est.
Puer in horto est.
Yeah, it changed after the word in again. And, you know, even if they come up with the wrong explanation for why something is changing, they'll be able to, when they get to the practice,
Puer in horto est.
pick the right one because they've memorized it.
Puer in horto est.
And then when they get to the lesson will explain exactly what's going on. And now, instead of learning, you know, words like ablative singular, where they're like, what in the world is that? Now they're going to learn the word ablative singular in lesson B, and they'll be like, oh, I know what that is. That's the thing that I was wondering about before when hortus changed to horto. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. We just did the sentences, and then you'll practice the sentences. You know, you'll hear the sentence, and you'll pick the picture. And then exercise 1B is really cool, where you are just picking the ending. So you've heard this, seen this a number of times. You know it's supposed to be puer in campo est. And so you just type in an O.
Puer in campo est.
And then this is the plural. You remember, you know, oculus changed to oculi, so fluvius. This, you haven't seen this before, but you know from the pattern that it must be fluvii.
Fluvii.
So you get some practice on just those endings in exercise 1B. After 1B is exercise 2A. You might be doing the next day. It's a lot like 1A, but there's different examples. So this might be review the next day. And then you get the lesson, and I'll actually let you see this lesson. There's 2 for lesson 1. This is just talking about the plurals. Oh. Sorry, don't mind this. I was already halfway through the lesson, so I'll take you back to the beginning. And you get to watch the grammar video.
Singular and plural. In this lesson, you learned some Latin words that ended in the sound us, like oculus, stilus, and hortus. But when there was more than one, the ending changed to the sound e, like oculi, stili, and horti. When there is only one, a word is called singular. So oculus, stilus, and hortus are all singular words. When there are two or more, a word is called plural. Oculi, stili, and horti are all plural words. In Latin, a word that ends in the sound us is often singular, and a word that ends in the sound e is often plural.
And he has written here the new terms and the new rules. And if you've purchased the bundle, you'll receive a workbook, and there will be spaces for you to write down these new terms, new rules, and also the new vocab that we've already learned. And here's a question to make sure that the student was paying attention. What does us change to in the plural? Us changes to e. So that was the lesson, the first lesson. And then you'll practice those endings again in the B exercise. And then lesson B is going to talk about when the word changed from campus to campo. It'll explain that that's called the ablative. And then endings will practice those lessons, what you learned in those lessons.
Puer in horto est.
So horto, what's that ending? That's the ablative ending. And you learned that in lesson B.
Campi.
Campi, what's that E ending? That's plural. That's the lesson that you saw.
Stilus.
Stilus. Hey, isn't that just the normal word that we learned in the beginning? Yes. And some of you will know that this is actually called nominative singular. And again, we will explain that grammar later on, but they're already thinking about singular, plural, and ablative. And we don't want to bog them down with too many grammatical terms all at once. So for now we call it normal, but we'll explain
Puer in fluvio est.
the terminology later. So those were endings. And then the last part of every lesson is a story, and I'll let you watch this story. We don't have a lot of vocabulary. We only have 7 words, so it's not the greatest plot ever, but there is a little bit of a plot going on here. It's, where's the boy? Is he here? No. Is he here? No. And so you can imagine a child saying, wait, no, he's not there. Ah, we finally found him. Even though they only know 7 words. But also, we're teaching them a question word. We're teaching them how to answer the question. So they're learning how to communicate meaningfully already in Latin.
Ubi est puer? Esne puer in horto? Puer in horto non est. Esne puer in fluvio? Puer in fluvio non est. Esne puer in campo? Puer in campo est.
And I forgot to show you in the beginning here, the words that you don't already know are right here. There's a question word. Ubi means where, and non means not. Every lesson is structured the same where. Oh, here's a question from the story. Ubi est puer? Where was he in the end? He was in campo. Every lesson in the Volume 1 Latin Primer is structured the same way. You can see this is the last lesson, and it's got an Exercise 1A, an Exercise 1B. It's got a story and story questions. The story is more compelling because you have more vocabulary, you have more verbs, and the questions are more fun to answer too. But every lesson follows the same pattern. So that's how Picta Dicta Latin Primer works.